Thanks for joining us today. Today we're going to cover cargo securement. What we're going to cover is how to secure heavy vehicles, how to secure light vehicles, and we'll talk about some length requirements. So sit back, enjoy, and we'll see you in a bit. Alright, so we just loaded this 330 hoe onto the trailer. So now we're going to talk about cargo securement standard. Okay, so what the standard says is for a heavy piece of equipment, you have to have at least 4 tie downs, 4 chains securing it. Each chain has to have a minimum working load limit of 2,268 kilograms. So what we've done is we took a 1/2 inch chain, grade 70, secured it in 4 locations on the tracks, front and rear. Okay, so this 1/2 inch chain, the working load limit per chain is 5,130 kilograms. Times that by 4, that's 20,500 kilograms. Okay, the standard also states you have to secure at least 50% of the load weight. So 50% of the load weight is 16,000 kilograms. So the full weight approximately of this machine is 32,000 kilograms. Okay. Standard says you have to secure at least 50%, so that's 16,000 kilograms. And we've secured it just by these 4 chains alone to 20,500 kilograms. Okay, we didn't even take into account this chain. This chain here, the standard also says you have to have your attachments lowered and secured in place. So this is a 3/8 grade 70 chain. The working load limit on this one is 2,990 kilograms. Okay, so in total we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chains securing this. The working load limit for the ratchet style boomer is 18,100 pounds. Okay, so this machine is well secured within the standard parameters. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is length requirements for cargo securement. So with the cargo securement standard, it states in the standard anything that is under 5 feet in length and weighs under 500 kilograms can be secured with 1 tie down. Anything that's over 500 kilograms and still within that 5 foot length has to be secured by 2 tie downs. There's another requirement that talks about anything over 10 feet in length has to be secured by 2 tie downs within the first 10 feet and 1 tie down in every section of 10 feet thereafter. So to make sense of that is I'm in front of a dozer blade here. I've got a D7 in the background here. So this blade's approximately 15 feet long. So to secure this, you're going to have to use at least 3 tie downs. You're going to have 2 within the first 10 feet and 1 in every 10 foot section thereafter. So 2 within the first 10 feet and then you'd have 1 more to make 3. So also one thing you have to remember is securing this, you have to secure it at least to 50% of its weight. So with 3 chains on here, let's say 3/8 grade 70, you're going to secure well over 50% of the weight of this. So there is length restrictions and weight restrictions. To recap, so with the length and weight, what we're looking at, let's say if you have a pallet, let's say drilling cement, okay? The pallet's been unitized, okay? It's all one big item, it's been wrapped. Okay, wrapped properly. So if that pallet weighs less than 500 kilograms and it's less than 5 feet in length, okay, 1 tie down. If it's over 500 kilograms, still the same configuration under 5 feet. So it's over 500 kilograms, you're gonna need 2 tie downs. So let's say you have a flatbed going down the highway. A lot of times you'll see some big frac companies, they'll have a flatbed truck with pallets on them, pallets of cement. What you're going to see is 2 tie downs on the front 2 pallets, then 1 tie down on the next row, 1 tie down on the next row, and the very last row is going to have 2 tie downs on there. So always remember the length requirements and also the weight. So with this D7, you're going to secure it with at least 4 chains. Okay, you have to secure at least 50% of the load weight each chain has to have a working load limit of 2,268 kilograms. So when we're talking about the length requirement, remember, if anything's 10 feet or greater, you have to have 2 tie downs in the first 10 feet, 1 tie down for every additional 10-foot length, okay? So if we're talking about weights, you have an article on the truck that's under 5 feet in length, under 500 kilograms, you need 1 tie down. If it's still under 5 feet in length but over 500 kilograms, you need 2 tie downs, okay? If it's over 10 feet in length, 2 in the first 10 feet, no matter what it weighs, and then 1 in every 10-foot section thereafter. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is tie downs. So with tie downs, we have a boomer here. It's a ratchet style boomer. So with this boomer, it's got a working load limit of 12,000 pounds. So all securement devices that you're using to secure a load, a piece of cargo or equipment have to have working load limits. Some will have the actual weight on with chain. Chain, you're going to have grades of chain. So you're going to have grade 70, grade 43, grade 80, grade 100. So this particular chain is a 3/8. It's a grade 70 chain. So the working load limit for this one is 2,990 kilograms. So again, with chain, you're going to have stamps. With boomers, you're going to have it embossed on the handle. So just make sure all your securement devices has working load limits, or your chain has been stamped. Okay, so we're going to do a little recap on load securement devices. Okay, so you can have chains, you can have ratchet style boomers, over center boomers, synthetic web, wire rope, synthetic rope. All those devices have to have a working load limit, whether it's stamped like a chain, grade 70, grade 80, whether it's embossed on the handle. This is a 5/16 ratchet style boomer, working load limit of 7,100 pounds. Okay, this one is another style, and this one, the working load limit is 18,100 pounds. Okay, so with synthetic web, most of the time there's going to be a tag or the working load limit's right on the web. Okay, so everything has to have that working load limit. If it doesn't have the working load limit, whoever pulls you over, an officer, transportation, RCMP, can put you out of service. They can give you a written warning or a fine. When you're securing something, the working load limit that's going to be assigned to that securement device is going to be the weakest thing on the link. So if the chain has a lesser working load limit than, let's say, the boomer, that's what you get. So you always got to make sure that all your securement devices have equal or greater working load limits. Okay, so now what we're going to talk about is how to secure a rubber tired loader. So with a loader like this or a rock truck, anything that has an articulation point, that articulation point has to be secured for movement. So either you put the dog bone in, something like that, or you need to chain the articulation point. Okay, so with this heavy piece of machinery, it's over 4,500 kilograms. So in the standard, anything over 4,500 kilograms has to be secured by a minimum of 4 tie downs. Each tie down has to have a working load limit of 2,268 kilograms. So this one, the dog bone would be in, the bucket has to be lowered to the deck, and the bucket has to be secured. So in total, there's going to be 4 on the machine, 4 chains, 1 chain on the bucket, 5 in total. We're going to talk about is how to secure light vehicles. So light vehicles is anything considered under 4,500 kilograms. So for light vehicles, the Cargo Securement Standard says you have to have 2 chains and they have to be secured at proper anchor points. So on this skid steer, you're going to have an anchor point on the front, a proper anchor point. There's going to be 2 loops, and then you have 2 loops on the rear. So just make sure anything under 4,500 kilograms, you have to have at least 2 chains securing it, and you have to secure at least 50% of the load weight of the vehicle you're securing. So now I'm going to quickly talk about synthetic web. So synthetic web, they're going to have their working load limit tags, or they're going to have it right on the face. This one has the working load limit right on the face of 5,400 pounds. One thing I want to touch on is the out of service. So if you have a cut that's going across synthetic web, that's 3/4 of an inch or greater, that's considered out of service for a 4-inch. For 3-inch, anything over 5/8 or greater would be out of service. The other thing I want to touch on is rub rails. Rub rails are designed secure cargo, but all cargo securement devices should be inside the rub rail, not on the outside. Okay, so we're going to talk about one more thing, loose load items. What's a loose load? So a loose load can be anywhere from an excavator being loose, not enough securement devices, or just dirt in your tracks or debris on your deck, okay? So the fines are all the same. They start at $575 in Alberta. Okay, so I always like to talk to drivers in the case of, would you drive around with your personal vehicle with gravel on the roof for your car or truck? Everybody says no, so just remember that when you're pulling a trailer or tractor. Make sure all the debris is off the deck. Make sure your tracks are nice and clean. This stuff may not be big, but it can cause an accident, take out a windshield, and also you can get a fine, and also the company can get carrier profile points. Okay, now we're going to talk about loose load fines. So here in Alberta, a loose load fine starts at $575. In BC, they start at $288. So in BC, their fines start at $288. They can go up from there. The company can get fined. The driver can get fined. Within Alberta, they start at $575 and can go up from there. The company can get fined. The driver can get fined. So you always got to remember, you as a driver, always check your load. Make sure you sweep your decks off. Make sure the equipment's secured. Make sure all buckets, dunnage are secured. If something comes off that vehicle, you can be fined. There can be an injury or fatality that can follow you for life. Also, if you get a fine, there's going to be points that go against Petro West, going to go against the company carrier profile. So those points are going to follow the company, and you're going to get points on your commercial driver's abstract also. Okay, now we're going to talk about the cargo securement standard and the intervals when you need to check your cargo. So the standard talks about you got to check your cargo after it's loaded within 80 kilometers, every change duty status 240 kilometers, or every 3 hours. And you need to note that in your logbook. If you don't note that in your logbook, or let's say you have a mishap on the road and something comes off your vehicle, transportation can fine you $575. Well, thanks for joining us today. Today we covered how to secure heavy vehicles, light vehicles, and we covered some length requirements. So at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a short test, and that test can be kept by you, and you can use that down the road for reference. Thanks again. I hope this was informative. Take care.